Okay, she did it. She jumped. Next up, wingsuits. Let's find out on this Taking Off podcast. Hello and welcome to the Taking Off podcast. I'm Dan Milliken. On the phone, looking forward to base jumping is
Christy.
All right, Christy. You have done it. You have jumped.
I did. I faced my fears and I jumped. And yeah, I did it. I came through on my commitment. So nobody can say that I don't follow through.
No, you did follow through. You did not chicken out. And we're going to debrief. The whole point of this podcast, we're going to debrief the jump and all the things that happened that day. And so let's get to it. So, Christy, for those who don't remember, basically 2 years ago at AirVenture, we had Kerry McCauley on an episode, and we were at 55,000 subscribers at the time. And in that episode, Christy agreed to finally jump if we reached 100,000. And to even backstory that more, before that, we had somebody on from Skydive Spaceland, a pilot and a jumper, who wanted to bring awareness to the general aviation people, the general aviation pilots, about drop zones, because they were seeing more and more incursions of GA pilots just not being aware or not even caring of flying through active drop zones. So we had them on, and then Heath, the guy we had on, offered for me and Christy to go jumping. I was so excited because I wanted to jump, and they were, offering to do it for free for us so we could get the word out. And every time I reached out to Christy to say, okay, how about this Saturday? Okay, how about this Friday? Every time Christy was busy. It didn't take me long to figure out what was going on there. Right, Christy?
Well, okay. So I think the context here is important because I think that there is definitely some misperceptions out there just based on some of the comments I've seen and what other people have said and what even like Kevin said to me. People don't realize. Yeah. So we had Heath on the show to bring awareness to the jump zones. Pretty important stuff. A lot of GA pilots, they don't even look at their charts. They're just flying through it willy-nilly. Heath did offer to let us go. And we actually had a date scheduled. I believe it was in April because it was only a couple months after we did the filming. But I remember there was not good weather that day. Like it was really, really windy and there were storms in the forecast or something, or there was going to be like a cloud layer. So it just wasn't good. And of course, at that point, I kind of had second thoughts about going. And you tried to reschedule, but I wasn't really interested in that at that time. So I was like, I really have no desire. I don't know. I just wasn't at like a place in my life that I felt like I needed to. There was really no reason to do it. And to be honest, I'm glad we didn't do it then because fast forward, like you said, 2 years ago, you and Kerry McCauley kind of
ambushed.
Well, yeah, okay. You ambushed me and you were like, is Christy going to jump? And that it was kind of a running joke that piggybacked off of the invite for us to go skydive like previously that year.
Right.
And so when you guys did that, that's kind of when we came up with when we hit 100,000, I think I first said 1 million and you were like, no, that's too many. So then you were like 75,000. Nope. 100,000. That's a good round number. And so it just kind of went from there. Well, when we hit 90,000 subscribers, that's when I started having to like mentally prepare myself for, oh my gosh, this is probably going to happen. And so it kind of became a running joke between you and I. I always here's the thing. Yes. Was I scared to do it? Absolutely. That was not acting. Like me being scared to fall out of an airplane was 100% a huge fear.
Well, I think that anybody that has watched the video of the jump knows legitimately the fear that you had. Somebody recommended in the comments, I should have had a counter for every time you said, oh God.
Yeah, exactly. I think I said it I think we said it like 13 times or something, but yeah, like,
I should have had
we'll kind of talk about that.
Counter.
Oh my gosh, see, that would have been funny. I
Yeah.
actually we'll talk about the actual jump, but I actually expected you to have more fun with it, but that's okay. Cause I understand, like, we did get a comment. I saw a comment there yesterday after the video was posted about what a jerk you were for forcing me to do this. And I was like, hold up. Nobody forced me to do this. First of all, nobody can force me to do anything unless it's crew scheduling.
Right.
You know what I mean? This was a personal challenge that I took on myself. Here's the deal. I'm a very timid person. Like we all know and love you, Dan, but you are not a timid person. You run head to the flames, and like we've had, the psychologist on our channel
Right.
on in the hangar previously to talk about why it is that women are typically more risk adverse. I mean, I'm just one of those women. I'm not this like daredevil risky person. I'm very calculated. I think about my maneuvers and stuff. And if I don't have a really good reason to jump out of an airplane, I'm not. And a lot of people don't realize I was initially scared to fly. Back in the early 2000s, when I did my first ever discovery flight, I was scared to do it, but I really liked the airplanes. They really intrigued me. And I pushed myself to take that initial discovery flight. And then eventually I would learn how to fly and overcome those fears. But it's not like anybody forced me to do that. Nobody forced me to do this. So I took it upon myself and I said, fine, I'll do it. Was I scared to do it? Heck yeah, absolutely. I was heckin' scared. But the whole point was to push myself out of my comfort zone so that I could do it. And I wasn't excited about the jump itself. I was excited about the aftermath of the jump.
What do you mean by that?
So I guess now the confidence that I was going to gain from it.
The result, the consequences of the jump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So because when I got down after we landed, I think, oh man, we can kind of debrief everything chronologically. I don't want to get out of order. So
yeah, okay. So we'll come back. We'll circle back to that in a few minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into it. And one last thing I want to say addressing that. So yes, you're facing a fear. And there was no doubt that I did, through the last 2 years, play up the drama about you jumping. So yes, a lot of people thought that, comments have been, oh, Dan's bullying Christy or this or that. And I did play that up in front of the cameras, but behind the cameras, it was totally Christy's choice. If she didn't want to jump, that was A-okay. It was going to be just fine. And so I just want to clear the air on that right away.
Yeah. I mean, even within a week of the jump, I'll be honest, I was scared. I was having conversations with Kevin about it. I even called you and you were like, look, at the end of the day, if you don't want to do this, this is not something you have to do. We have it all set up and ready to go, but at the end of the day, if you really feel that way, if you feel like you can't do it, we'll do we'll figure something else out. Yeah. Dan, you were very understanding and you listened to me lament about my fears and what I wanted to overcome it, but I was just really scared. And so you listened to me. So behind the scenes when the cameras weren't on, you were totally cool. You did play it up. You're just a silly goose. You right. Played it up for the giggles. I played it up.
All right, so here we go. Let's debrief the jump. So I invited Kerry McCauley down from his operation in Wisconsin near the Minnesota border, and it was apropos that Kerry would come down, and he did. He flew down. I picked him up at the airport the night before, and his flight was majorly delayed, and the drop zone's about an hour to hour and a half away from DFW Airport, and the drop zone, what's amazing about, I didn't know this, about Skydive Spaceland Dallas, they have these bunkhouses and stuff that's right there. And you can go and camp out there and camp is not a good word, but you could stay in the bunkhouse or a bunk room if you want your own room. And it was very convenient. So Kerry and I got in and we arrived there probably after midnight. And so we got a little bit of sleep. And I will, even though I've had really hardly any to no fear about jumping, I will say that in the night before we did a jump, I actually recorded this, but I did not add it in the jump video. And I've never told you this. I had a bad dream 2 nights before the jump about the jump. I had one that was a nightmare, and I won't talk about that. But then I also had another one where it was a weird dream. It was, I was jumping solo, and the chute wouldn't open. And at the very last second, we were able to get the chute open. I could flare and touch down to the ground. It was those are the kind of dreams I was having. And I
kind of want to know about the bad dream, but I also don't want to know. It's like the dreams that I have when crew scheduling calls me to extend my trips.
No, and I will say that on the morning of, I've been waking up early lately anyway, but at 6, I was kind of half asleep, almost awake, when the thought occurred to me that I had forgotten something in the car. And I was instantly wide awake, went to the car. Oh no, it's there. I'm good. And so I was like, oh, I'm awake now. So I walked around the quiet camp at sunrise, shot some video and did that kind of stuff. So when I'm talking about at the very beginning or near the beginning of the video, the actual jump video, you'll see me walking at this little neighborhood that Skydive Spaceland has. And anyway, so that was my start. What about you?
Okay, well, mine has a little bit of context and a little bit of personal stuff behind it. So, when you and I when we hit the 100,000 and we started actually planning to do the jump, I was in captain upgrade training. And we've kind of talked about that before. It was a very hectic time. I was like back-to-back ground school and sims and getting ready for IOE. And in addition, our company also went through a few like administrative type changes. Like they changed our releases and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I was just like, and of course I still got Mitchell to deal with and the flying club and just all this other stuff. So I was juggling like 10 things. So when you reached out to me and said, hey, we can do it on the 14th, I was like, okay. And I'm thinking in my brain about all this stuff I've got coming up and training and everything. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and do it. So you went ahead and booked it. Well, I had forgotten or I just misremembered the dates. Kevin and I were supposed to go on a family trip with his parents to Hawaii to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary. And so this was going to be their first time to Hawaii. Kevin and I have been a few times. And so we wanted to take them on a tour of the Big Island and go island hopping and do all this stuff. Well, I planned that basically at the wrong time. And I thought we were going sooner and that we'd be back by then. And so it actually did cause a little bit of problem with my personal scheduling. And then I was not able to get out of a work trip. I was going to drop it and then wound up not being able to drop it. And so long story short, Kevin wound up having to go to Hawaii without me because I was stuck working. And then of course I had moved or made my schedule such so that I could get the 14th off. And so in addition to that, I was stressed out still because my schedule, the weather had been really bad. And then Kevin tells me, and I'm worried about this, I'm lamenting about the skydive. And Kevin tells me, well, I don't want you to go. Like, if you're going to feel this way, like, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. I don't want you to go. And he was going to be in Hawaii with his parents. So I was just going to go do this. I mean, he was never really going to come with me anyway. So that wasn't the plan. This was a channel thing. Well, I finally told, you and I had a conversation about it. And I'm like, Dan, I'm just overwhelmed right now. And I've got all these thoughts and feelings and I don't know what to do with it. And that's when you gave me the pep talk and you told me, hey, we don't have to do this, and I said, but I really felt like I owed it to the viewers and stuff. And I owed it to myself, more importantly. And so, I basically told Kevin, I was like, look, yeah, I'm uncomfortable with it, but I was uncomfortable with spins and I did that too. And I was uncomfortable doing stalls in the airplane initially. And I did that too. There's a lot of things I've been uncomfortable with, but I've overcome it. And I basically just pled my case to him. And he was on a work trip when I had this conversation with him. We were talking on the phone. He says, let me call you right back. So he hangs up the phone and like 10 minutes later, he calls me back and he says, okay, I'm coming with you. Now, mind you, this is like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days away from the jump. And he's still supposed to be going to Hawaii. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, yeah, he's like, I already talked to my parents. I'm going to go for basically 2.5 days. I'm going to take them to where I promised that I'd take them. He's like, but the plan was for him to get on the flight Thursday night and get in early Friday morning and come jump with me. That was huge. And so I was like, wow, okay. Well, then there was some drama leading up to that because the flight he was going to take back to DFW on Thursday night was delayed like 2 hours. And so he wasn't even sure if he was going to land on time. But
I want to interrupt you for a minute here because I want to tell you a little bit from my perspective at this moment. I get first of all, you had already told me that Kevin had called and had told you that he was going to jump. So then like the day before, I get a text from Kevin saying, don't tell Christy, but I'm going to be there for the jump. And I'm like, well, I texted back, are you sure she doesn't know? But apparently, there was this whole thing where he was going to jump and then it wasn't.
Right. And I never told you that either.
Right.
You're absolutely correct. Because he got there and then he told me that the flights didn't look good coming back because he had paid for a ticket to get out there, but he was just going to non-rev coming back. And so like I told him, I was like, look, dude, if you don't make it here to jump on time, I fully understand because that was never the plan. I said, just you offering is a huge gesture and like we're good. Like this whole scheduling and snafu and everything, like it's okay. Like we'll just chalk it up to a loss, for this time, move forward and like it's not a big deal. And he was like, yeah, dude, I'm really sorry. The flights don't look good. And I think he was trying to mess with me or throw me off the scent. Cause like he was going to come, then he wasn't. And I just decided, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to talk to Dan about any of this until like that day when we know for sure. But then, he actually told me afterward that he had messaged you and I was like, oh, okay. Like that's cool. But he did, he kind of surprised.
He wanted to know if he was late, would he miss it? All this kind of stuff. And I let him know, no, we've got some leeway.
Right. I mean, he flat out, like, he was ready to go. Like, he was like, because I told him, you wanted me there by 8:30, and he's like, oh my gosh. And so it actually worked out. The flight landed, and because of where we live in Denton, it was going to take me about an hour and a half to get up there anyway, because it was all like non-highway driving.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, oh, what if I just went to DFW, which is 30 minutes away, and then it's an hour from DFW because it's all highway driving. It's an hour from DFW up to the skydive place. So I was like, it's the same amount of time. Why don't I just come pick you up from the airport? So that's what we did. I grabbed him. So he literally got off an overnight flight from Hawaii, and I picked him up and we went straight to Skydive Space One.
Right. Okay.
And so we're driving there, and he is like heart rate like 120 the whole time,
so
and I'm like
jumping.
He was so nervous, and I kept telling, and I told him, this was me telling him, I'm like heart rate 68, 69, 70, totally cool as a cucumber. And he's like, how are you so calm? And I'm like, dude, if you don't want to go, like just you being here with me on the ground to support me from the ground is huge. And he just kept saying no, like. He's like, I'm doing this with you. It means a lot to me to do this with you. Like, I want to be like, he wants to be like maximum supportive. And I was like, okay, but I'm not going to make you. But yeah, we get there. And that's when we meet up with you.
Right. And also at the same time, I think it's cool that Kevin committed to jumping is that we had several fans who drove in from really far away that were committed to jumping with you. So like Eric, a shout out to Eric who watches, and his wife is also Christy.
And his wife, Christy. Yeah.
And so Eric wanted to jump. Christy wasn't as keen, but Eric jumped. We had...
Hey, she was there to support us.
Yeah,
I am totally fine with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so to have fans and, Jay Urish, so we had Tony and his wife. From Airplanes and Coffee, and we had
Nick was there.
Nick, our sponsor from Marshall Protective Services. It was really, really fun to see some of our community come out and support you. So, so then we go in, and now there's two different things going on. There's me doing, now I keep saying it's a solo jump, and I don't, so far there hasn't been any comments yet from the people, but technically I guess it's not a true solo. That comes like around jump 7 or 8. But it's the first one where you're not tandem. So I call that a solo.
I was going to say, you didn't have another person strapped to you?
But it's not a true solo, but it's still a solo. But anyway, I just want to make that.
I mean, you pulled the chute and you were on your own at that point.
I was on my own.
So I see that as a solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to go the week before, and I did ground school. I did 2 tandem jumps and all that kind of stuff to get ready for this first jump without being attached to somebody. And so even then, I had to have more instruction than like what you had to go through. And so while you were kind of sitting around waiting, I had to go and get more training while we were there for the jump. So I know that probably the hardest part was just all the waiting that you were having to do.
Yeah, honestly, and to be honest, it really wasn't that bad. Like the waiting itself wasn't that bad. We did have to go through like a little presentation and then a little bit of like one-on-one instruction, if you will, with the person that we were going to jump with. And so, yeah, like, I think I was still pretty calm. Like I was starting to get a little amped up. I think I was getting really excited, and everybody was telling me, oh no, you're going to get out there. It's going to be amazing. You're going to feel like you're just floating on air. And so I kind of had that like vision in my head that I'm just going to float like a butterfly. And I started getting really excited. Kevin is still really nervous. The fans are pretty excited. There's a mix of like nervous and excitement, but they're there, like they're there for it. And we even had another guy, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. I feel so bad. He showed up. He was just going to watch us, and then he decided to jump with us.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Because he was in the room with us, that briefing room where we were kind of going through the ground school with the video presentation and stuff. And he decided, he was like, you know what? I'm doing this after all. And he got up and he went and he filled out the form.
That's amazing. And that's awesome.
No, it is. It is amazing. It's incredible. And I feel really bad because I'm really bad with names, you guys. But anyway, yeah, so that was really cool. And so we're pumped, and then we, go suit up, and that's when I met JP, and, he's kind of going through everything. And then, of course, we go outside and the Twin Otter pulls up, and it's like, okay, now it's getting real.
Yeah.
And we got in the airplane and we started going up, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, like I was excited, actually. I was really happy because you guys know I love airplanes.
Yeah,
and
so
I was really intrigued.
Is an airplane, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was definitely in my happy place. They opened up the door to get some air conditioning in, and that didn't freak me out or anything. And
that's pretty when far away from the door too. You're by the flight deck.
Right, that didn't bother me. But yeah, we got up. They started doing the interviews, you guys saw in the video and stuff, around 6,000 feet. My videographer Fernanda, which she was amazing, by the way. Everybody that I was faced on is just absolutely incredible people. They're just happy to share their passion with you, and they're trying to make sure you're happy and as comfortable as you. But yeah, that's when she kind of did her little interview, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, she was like, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm pensive. I'm thinking about, it's not really, still not 100% real. Like I'm not super nervous, but man, Kevin was amped up. He had his little, cause we did the video for him as well. And I'm ready for this. It was so weird. It was like the higher up we got in the airplane, like my energy just swapped with his. Cause then he got really pumped and excited. And I was like, heart rate 120.
Well, what was funny is cause I edited the video. So I watched that footage over and over and over again.
I'm sure.
The higher that we went, the closer to the jump, it was almost like the more you turned internal, the more you just kind of like body language and everything, you shrunk up and, like the pill bug.
I turned full introvert.
Well, yeah, introvert physically and emotionally and everything. So, it was, if you had the ability, because you weren't strapped in with somebody to go fetal, I think you would have.
No, you're absolutely correct. And so here's the deal with that. So then we got up to 14,000 feet and people started exiting the airplane. And that's when I was like, oh my God. Like, this is because when I saw them jump out, they didn't float like freaking butterflies.
They tossed in the wind.
They literally tossed in the wind.
Did you see me go out? Because I was like about the fourth or fifth person. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I saw you. And I think, when I
edited the video, it looks like your eyes are closed the whole time, but it's hard to tell.
No, because I had the gradient flying eyes on. So yeah, it was hard to see. No. My eyes were open. I watched you get sucked right out of the back door there.
I jumped.
And when you left the airplane, I think that's when I was like, oh my God, this is happening. This is it. We are doing this. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Bell counter started chiming at that point.
When I saw you in particular jump out of the airplane effectively by yourself, not tandem. I know you had an instructor there to kind of guide you as you were in Freefall, but yeah, that's when it got really real for me. And I think maybe I should have closed my eyes because when I looked down and I saw the ground so far away, that's when it really hit me. And then, actually, no, when I was still kind of far behind, but I was watching all you guys go.
Right.
And then Nick jumped with his tandem instructor, but that's when the light turned red. I saw Kevin exit, and it was really funny because Kevin's like, let's go. He's the one shouting, let's go in the background. He was pumped and ready.
Right.
Like he was ready, but he was so excited at that point. And then so he went, and then Nick went, and then the light turned red.
Yeah, you were supposed to go right after Nick.
Exactly. And then they were like, okay. And so JP was explaining to me, hey, Christy, so what's going on is we got a little too far from the jump zone, so we need to circle back around. And that was probably like the worst.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes now near the door waiting for it. Another funny part at that point, too, is that Kerry McCauley is going to be jumping right behind you, and his plan was to do a dive out the door and then come up and grab your arm, that kind of stuff, and say hi. And he's got a camera too, and so that was the plan. Well, Kerry did not see the light or whatever, the red light, and so he thought that you had decided not to jump. So he came up, took his helmet off to give you a pep talk. So you can see it in the video and everything else. But he thought you had, and even all the way after the jump, and he landed before, he found out that it was just simply a go around. He thought that you had chickened out at the door.
Well, I will tell you this, Kerry was actually pretty awesome. Kerry's funny because he likes to rib and joke and poke fun and stuff. But in the moment when it really counted, he was definitely there because he was pep talking me and telling me, hey, it's no big deal, blah, 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 and you're going to feel like you're floating. And,
Floating,
it was like, okay,
your mantra,
right, exactly. So
while you rocked yourself in a fetal position, floating, not falling.
No, basically. Well, and JP, so here's the thing. That's when you see me kind of hunched over and stuff, because I was like, oh my God. And JP had explained we're doing this go around. But then, JP said, Christy, I'm not going to force you out of this airplane. It's hard to hear in the audio, but if you're paying attention, you can hear him say, I'm not going to force you out of this airplane. And I said, no, we're going. We're going. And I just said that over and over, because I was like, no, we're doing this. I'm doing this. Right. I'm not going to lie. I'm scared to death. I'm terrified of doing this, but we're still going. And so I was very determined to go. And so at that point, that's when, they gave him and JP and Kerry both told me, it's floating. And I was like, floating, not falling, floating, not falling. That was my mantra. And then he's like, all right, we're going to go. And yeah, you could see me, we did a little lobster crawl up, and he was like, all right, head back. And I get my head back, and he does the 1-2 shove. And
there you go.
Oh man. That first couple of seconds, I can't even begin to tell you guys that feeling or that sensation. It's like jumping off the ledge when you're jumping into the pool or something. But we kind of did the somersault, and all I was thinking about in my mind at that very moment was get in position.
Right. I'm going to pause
the legs
you right
and the
there
arms.
so that we keep it chronological. So at this point, I've already jumped.
Got it.
So I will tell you this, jumping out alone this time. Now, the instructor actually has a handhold on me. So it's, at least there's somebody holding me. I was anticipating that I would immediately go into, stomach down, arch your back, arms out, but I ended up somersaulting, and it surprised me. But then I was able to get in position really quickly. But what happened is my helmet, first time to wear a helmet was a little loose. My goggles that were over my glasses was a little loose. And, I thought the helmet and the goggles were going to fly off. And so you move a hand to try to stabilize that. Well, that messes up your free fall. And so I was stressing about that. And so I was not thinking about the things I was supposed to do at that point. So I did have a little bit of struggle there, but then I got it where I think it's going to be okay. And I went back, and what I had to perform at this point was I had to perform 3 practice throws of my ball to throw the chute. And so I real quick did all 3. And by that point, looking down, I was already at the point of actually, there was no more time left in free fall. So, and then I threw the chute for real. And it was pretty good. I mean, there was nothing wrong with that. I will say that my dreams had to center around the chute not being properly opened, because when you're learning to jump solo, the 3 things you have to look at: is it square? Is it stable? Is it steerable? And I'm scared to death because you drill the malfunctions. I was scared to death that there would be a malfunction, and then I'd have to go to the other chute. And what's interesting, I was talking to Kerry. He's got over or close to 20,000 jumps. He has actually had to pull his emergency 31 times. So that kind of tells you maybe what some odd numbers are, but the odds were not that I was going to need to pull the backup chute. So for me, the chute pops. Now I'm holding, and now it's just a matter of steering in and staying in the holding area, so that when you get to the right altitude, that you can do basically a pattern, just like an airplane, where you're going to do a downwind, a base, and a final. So there I am hanging, and now we'll go back to you. So you just jumped.
Yeah. So we just jumped. We do this somersault. And then, like I said, my brain is totally focused on, hey, I need to get in position. So like right away, I get into the hands out and the legs. Now I'm going to say this, Dan, you said editing the video, you watched it over and over again. Well, I've watched my jump video probably 25 times
Right.
because I cannot stop laughing. This is the gift that keeps giving because it is just so funny.
What the wind flow does to your face. Yeah.
And nobody told me what to do with my face. Now, Kevin said that his guy told him, hey, you want to like smile and like you want to do stuff because you don't want the you don't want the wind to grab your face because it's good. He said his guy coached him. I didn't get coached on that, which is fine. That's ancillary. I'm actually glad nobody coached me on it because it is so funny. Like the raw footage. I got some really good stills that I am insisting on printing out and framing because they're just so funny. But yeah, I'm thinking in my head, like to keep myself calm. All right, I'm in position. What am I at? Okay. Wow, it's really loud out here. Okay. And I know I'm falling at a fast rate. It actually doesn't feel like I'm falling at a fast rate. And I start thinking about like the coefficient of friction with the air and everything else. And anyway, so I just start kind of going through that in my head. And then I kept feeling like a tug at my hand, and I thought it was JP. Kerry was right there with me.
Right.
I had no clue. I was completely oblivious that he was there.
Right.
Not even going to lie.
Oh, you can tell.
I saw it gets even funnier because I saw Fernanda in her wingsuit, like in front of me. And so I tried to do like the hang 10 or whatever, hang loose, like I'm doing this or whatever.
Yeah, you did
like,
it upside down. Yeah.
Rock on. No, well, I know I did it. I did good. I did that, but I'm using like 150% of my brain power at this point just to do that. And then I kept trying to get like JP or somebody was giving me like a thumbs up and I gave him I was like thumbs down.
Yeah.
And then that's when Kerry grabbed my right hand and he flipped it up. So it was thumbs up with my right hand and thumbs down with my left hand. But then, JP kind of he does the maneuver to tell me he wants to open the chute. So then you can see Kerry kind of bounce out in the background. Again, I had no clue he was even there.
Yeah, so JP does the waves a hand over his head.
He waves him
which
away.
Signifies both Fernandez and Kerry to back off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So either way, so he does that. And then I'm reaching down to grab the ball. And then he grabbed my hand to make sure I was reaching down in the right place to grab the ball. And then I pulled the chute. And, when I went back and
Are you sure? Because it looks like to me that you couldn't find it. And it looks like JP throws it from the other side.
No, I did. I grabbed it. I reached down and grabbed it. He may have grabbed it from the other side as well.
We're going to throw the instant replay flag, and I'm going to pull the video, and I'm going to put it right here on the.
We must have pulled it at the same time then, if he did, because I reached down and grabbed it and pulled. Like I felt it pull.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it.
Yeah. I mean, because I was reaching down for it, and then he grabs my hand, and he basically put my hand on it. And then that's when I pulled. So I don't know if I don't know. I was too focused on watching my facial expressions because those were really funny. I didn't see that he pulled the other side, but either way, the shoe got pulled. And I went back and timed it. The free fall portion was only 50 seconds to go from 14,000 feet to 6,000 feet.
Yeah. You're falling fast.
And then at that point, you guys got to remember too, I got this crazy adrenaline rush, all this fear, everything else built up in the last couple of minutes before I jumped. So now that we pulled the chute, I'm like, oh, okay, that's over with. Now I can kind of like relax a little bit and come down. And that's when it started like hitting me that, okay, I did it. We did this. He's like, you survived. And he was like, and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm just going to let you steer. Cause I just wanted to like enjoy the view, enjoy the fact that I wasn't free falling at like 10,000 feet a minute, stuff like that. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to have you grab onto these hooks because I need to do some administrative work. So I was like, okay. And so I reach up and I grab him, and he's kind of walking me through. JP was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, he was.
I can definitely see people, requesting him in the future if they're nervous about jumping, because he was just so amazing.
I jumped. That was my third jump, was Skydive Spaceland Dallas over that week, and I jumped with different people, and just looking at, and the ones that I didn't jump with, just watching them. All of the Skydive Spaceland people were just amazing, and I think that if anybody wants to go somewhere, I really mean it. They're not paying me to say it. They really have it down, and to make it the most enjoyable, to make it the most safe, it's truly amazing. And they do have locations all over the country, so I highly recommend Skydive Spaceland. They have really good people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we get down a little lower. Like it was getting warm out, so it started getting lifty. That actually didn't bother me as much. I was just like, oh, we're getting lifted up. I mean, I've done the paramotor thing before, right. So I know that thermals, I actually kind of enjoyed that. But I'll be honest with you, that last couple of seconds when we dropped down, he was like, all right, we're basically like, we're coming down. And I was like, because it felt like we came down at a pretty fast rate. And I don't think I expected that. I guess I expected to float a little bit more. But, and then we landed on the grass. He said, we're going to legs down or whatever, tuck your legs up, but we're going to do a land, we're going to do the scooch on our butt landing. Right. Okay, that's fine. But my shoe got caught on a rock or something. So my leg actually kind of went underneath me. Right. It didn't hurt. I wasn't injured, nothing like that. I did mess up my new Teds.
Who wears
but that's
white
okay.
canvas Teds?
You know what?
And lands on the grass.
I know. I did not expect. I don't know why I did that. I did it because I was like, oh, these will go great with my leggings. But
all right.
You know what though? I'm gonna wear those shoes proudly. I'm gonna wear those shoes proudly now. And when people ask me, oh, what happened to your shoe? I'm gonna be like, dude, this was from skydiving. Yeah, I know, right?
So it's a badge of honor. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'll pick up to, and now I'll go back to my story. So I am cruising down, first time totally alone now. And my instructor, after holding me, he free falls a lot further and pulls his chute a lot lower so that he can get on the ground as quick as he can. And he has put a radio on me, on my chest. And the instruction that I got on the ground before we took off was that, of course, I wouldn't be talking because there's no way to do a push to talk, but he would be talking to me. So he lands, gets on the ground, and then he calls me and says, okay, if you can hear me, do a full flare. So I heard him. I did a full flare, and then he can say, okay, good. So he knows that we've got communication. So from then on, he's coaching me. Now, in the brief beforehand, the whole idea is that you stay in the holding area until you're at 1,000 feet. Then you enter your downwind. And so then you're going to be... You're downwind at 1,000. You turn it. So you're at 900. You turn at 600 for your base. You turn at 300 for your final. The problem is that he can't tell distance, and so I'm hanging out above the holding area doing some turns, and he thinks I'm at 1,000, but I'm looking at my altimeter. I'm at 1,600, and he instructs me to go ahead and go into the downwind, and I'm 600 feet high, and so that worried me. I'm like, well, do I just ignore the instructor? I decided to go and follow his instructions, but in my mind, I'm going, well, I'm just going to extend my downwind a little bit because of that. And then he's telling me to turn base before, but I'm extending. So I did a slower turn. He said, speed it up. But I knew exactly. I was purposely trying to extend it a little bit because I was still high according to my altimeter. And, but I probably extended it a little bit too much because I did land a little bit short. And coming down, the other thing is that what you're trained to for your jump is that you got to do knees together, legs together. And he called it out to remind me, and so I did. But looking at the video, that last 300 feet, I forgot about that. I put my legs together, but then they drifted apart. So by the time that I actually landed, my feet were fairly apart, and that was the first time to land. I think I flared personally. I think I flared just slightly too late. And I flared according to his calls because that's what you've got to do as a first timer. And but I think even with him calling it, I was a little slow to go full flare. So I think I was a little faster on the land. And you're supposed to kind of jog it out, or if you think it's going to be a harder one, you're trained to do this falling deal. And so I ended up landing, and instead of running it out, I kind of fell forward and fell. But it was not a big deal, and you pick yourself up, and nothing was injured or hurt. So there you go. But you talk about your shoes being your badge of honor. So that was another thing that I'd forgotten in the morning when I got there, was that I forgot to bring my tennis shoes, and I was just wearing the comfortable Hey Dude shoes that can easily fly off, especially in 200-mile-an-hour winds.
Oh no!
So before the jump, I was freaking out about that. But I did take my Hey Dudes, and I actually pulled those elastic bands to make them a little bit tighter, and they did just fine. It was funny, but I thought I might be losing my shoes. But anyways, you know who did lose something? Yeah, so Kevin lost his glasses, because he didn't have his goggles on tight enough. Yeah, apparently not. I'm telling you, my goggles, JP made sure that my goggles were on really tight. On my tandem jumps before, they were on super tight. And they weren't on, I did not do them as tight for my solo jump, thinking it was just uncomfortably tight before. Now, if I go again, I'm going to make them uncomfortably tight, because it was a big distraction having them loose. So, I was going to say, I still had marks under my face the next day. Yeah. So then we land. I had to wrap the parachute up and carry that heavy sucker a long way because I landed short. Now I wish I'd landed longer, And then we meet up, and you got adrenaline pumping, and everybody else. It was a lot of fun. Then we head in, and then I give you the gift, and I do. Yeah. I want to set the record straight, because I got a lot of comments about, "Wow, Dan, that is such a class act for you to do, to give her the plaque and all this kind of stuff." And it took me a little bit to realize when you opened it and you were so touched and everything else, it did not register until about 3-4 minutes into the deal that you think it's the one and only plaque. And that's what a lot of people out there are thinking too. So I don't want everybody to think that I'm such a class act. So what happened is that when I got the notice to get my plaque, I ordered 2. So I just want to say that. Yeah. I got mine for free, and I paid for yours, but I was going to make sure you got a plaque. That's still classy. That's still super classy. But I did. It's not the upper levels of classness that would have given you the only one and only plaque. So I just set the record straight. No, I don't disagree with that. I'm still very touched and very moved. Like, when you first gave it to me, at first I thought, my very first inclination was, it's an airplane model. And I was like, I thought maybe you gave me a model of the Twin Otter. And then as I started to open it, and I realized you opened it up backwards, so there's no labels on a black box. And so I told you to turn it around, and there's the YouTube logo. Yeah. I thought it might be a plaque, congrats on your first skydive or something. But when I turned it over and I saw that it said YouTube, that's when it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now, yes, I did think initially that it was the one and only, because I didn't realize that you could order additional ones. So I'm still very touched, but I was incredibly touched, at that time, because I was like, oh my gosh, I thought you gave me this one and only, that's crazy. But then you actually did tell me a few minutes later. Yeah. So I was, cause I was like, cause I'm thinking to myself, what do we want to do with this? Do we want to hang out in the studio? Am I taking it home? What are we doing? And that's when I started to realize, no. Then you were like, no.
I've got one as well. I ordered you another one, and I was like, oh, okay, so I get to hang it up at home. Like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely hanging this sucker up. So, but either way, I thought it was very classy, and I was very moved.
Well, I appreciate that. And for those who do watch the channel, and if you happen to see, if I eventually put the plaque, now I will put the plaque in the background at the studio, you'll know that it's like you're going to think, oh, Dan stole the one he gave Christy. You know how?
You know
how
what?
neat is that?
I'm going to say that I have the original and you've got the duplicate.
There we go. Which you can say. That's okay to say that. So
yeah, but either way, we did good. Obviously we couldn't have gotten to this point. I wouldn't have jumped if it weren't for the subscribers and the viewers getting us there. So a huge shout out to all of you guys for listening and watching.
I don't know who you were referring to earlier, but I know that Christopher Morepi, I say his last name wrong, Morepi, he's come and been a big supporter of the channel. He came and watched. He wanted to jump, but he couldn't get the medical to jump, so he had to watch. And but the fact that he came anyway to watch and support us, it's those kind of fans. It's just amazing. The aviation community and the aviation fans are truly amazing.
No, absolutely. Like, you guys have been just so incredible. This community on a whole, as a whole, has been probably the best community that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, I would say so too. So, all right. Well, on that, let's wrap it up. This is going to be one of the longest podcasts we have so far, believe it or not, but it feels like it went
There's a lot to go through.
Yeah, there was a lot to debrief here, but we've got AirVenture coming up really, really soon. And Christy, you're kind of a maybe because of your seniority or lack thereof. You may have to
Good
fly.
news, Dan. Well, I was able to. So yeah, today was our trip trade day. So I was able to move a trip over so that I can be there for the first part of Osh.
Okay, so Christy will be for the first part of Osh. Also, Bailey.
Yep, I'll be there for the meet and greet and all of that.
Oh, it's awesome. Bailey Ward is going to be able to join us too for the first half. So for the first half, we'll have all three of us. So for you guys out there, come and say hi to us. We're going to be doing a meet and greet, and I'm going to be posting about this. Hopefully, Christy and Bailey will post about it. We're going to do a meet and greet Monday, 2:30 p.m. with all the big YouTubers. We've already got Mike Patey has agreed to come. We've got Hoover from Pilot Debrief is going to come. We've got Juan is a maybe right now because he hasn't looked at his schedule, but he says he's going to try, and just a bunch of others. Josh and Chelsea. It's just going to be a great time. Really looking forward to it. So Monday, Forum Stage 8, we're going to be sending notices about that. So if you're at AirVenture on Monday, please come and say hi. I'll also on Tuesday at AirVenture, Tuesday at 2:30, I'm going to do a workshop on using video and cameras in aviation and on your plane. So come by Forum Stage 4 for that, and I'll be promoting that as well. But regardless, if you see us, don't be afraid. Don't be shy to say hi. We love that. And, we look forward to seeing you guys. It's really one of the most funnest, can I say that? Funnest parts of the job here is interacting with you guys.
It's funnester. If you really want to go that way. Yep.
All right, so which is a nice segue to our sponsors because we'll be at the Flying Eyes booth quite a bit shooting some interviews for On Location in the hangars, and Flying Eyes helps supports us, and if you can support them by buying their awesome glasses, Kevin's going to have to go find some more because his sunglasses, his aviators blew off at 13,000 feet. So
it was because they didn't put his thing on. It wasn't Flying Eyes' fault. Flying Eyes did what they were supposed to do. In fact, they're probably out there still flying around.
Yeah, they're probably still flying. So, Kevin is probably going to need to use our discount code at flyingeyesoptics.com of taking off, all caps, one word, to get his 10% off, and you can too. Also, Marshall Protective Services. It was great having Nick out there to jump with us at mpsprotects.com. Nick has been supporting us for a while, and he means so much to us. Colton Mortgage.
He's a class act.
He is a class act. Colton Mortgage, Colton Taking Off for your residential mortgage. Jerry Clemens at clemensinsurance.net. It almost becomes rote that Jerry saved me a lot of money, but he really did. So when I switched over to Jerry, it ended up being the same underwriter, but Jerry knew how to answer the questions better to be able to get me a less costly premium. So he did save me money based on just his experience in the industry. And that's what you want going for you when you need a broker. That's what a broker should be doing, is going to bat for you. And Jerry does that. So Clemensinsurance.net. Also 67 Designs at 67D.com. They make incredible mounts. For you watching on YouTube, not just listening on Spotify or any of those kind of things, the camera that I've got up right now shooting me is on a 67 Designs mount. So 67D.com and Z-Vision, the brightest landing and taxi lights. I'm putting some landing and taxi lights on Lola right now. I'm hoping to have those completed soon. It's going to be amazing. I really can't wait. At xevision.com. So, and then I've got somebody calling in on me. All right, Christy, let's let everybody go. We're almost at an hour, and we'll talk and see you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.